American Horror Story continues to get interesting in its own little bizarre way. Episode 2, Home Invasion, is definitely a good way of settling the audience. And the first one, a pilot, was... that was difficult to get a grasp on, but this second one really solidifies that this is a good series to look into. One of the main reasons I say that is something that was discussed early on in this episode, the dream that I think Hayden was her name. I might be wrong, but that girl that Ben was consulting with, the dream she had, which... yeah, I'm going to talk about the whole episode and everything that happens in it and all. But her dream about getting cut in half by an elevator is actually really damn good. And this whole episode is full of really good setups and payoffs, because there were some things that seemed a little out of place at first. Like at first I just thought the elevator thing was just nothing really to worry about, nothing to think about. But then later on, it turns out there is actually some significance to it. Of course, the cupcake that Constance was making for Violet, I wasn't sure why she was so upset with Violet. I thought maybe this was some way of getting at Vivian for something. But no, actually it's revealed later on in the episode. I might as well get into it. Well, first off, the girl who was dreaming about the elevator actually does get cut in half. We don't see the full, thing. We see her at least getting sliced open, which, to be fair, she did kind of... Well, she both deserved it and kind of needed it with that upset stomach of hers. Which ties into the cupcake, because she did eat that, and I wasn't sure at first why Constance was so determined to make Violet sick. And then at the end, it turns out that Tate and Constance have some kind of thing going on. Either Tate is her daughter? Either Tate is Constance's son, or Constance is Tate's legal guardian or something, because apparently she is the one responsible for getting Tate help with Ben. And it makes me curious as to who Ben was actually talking to on that phone, because at no point previous was it even remotely suggested that they were related or even knew each other. But apparently Tate, Moira, and Constance all have some deeper connection to this house, and they're not ghosts like I thought they might be, because apparently Constance does have her own home. They just didn't show it in the first episode. Which I will get back to that in a moment. But the idea that they take it upon themselves to hide things that go on in this place, and that they seem to have a more elaborate knowledge of all the happenings in there. I thought that they were directly connected to this house as ghosts, but now I realize that there is something far more interesting going on here. Which I'm going to quickly talk about Addie's closet, the one that she was thrown into. Some of you may not know this. In fact, I'm almost betting that most of you don't know this, but it is kind of this little tidbit of information that is actually kind of important in paranormal research. And it's the idea that two mirrors reflecting into one another can be used as a type of portal for spiritual activity. Something that ghosts can go through, something that paranormal activity can be enhanced by. It acts like a gate. So imagine what happens when you have dozens of them pointing into this column. and then you put a girl in the middle of that who probably has some type of precognition as it is. If Addie even had the slightest bit of telepathic or medium ability, she is like a spark being thrown into a room full of gas. That's how important that room actually is. She is getting just supercharged by that room. In probably the worst way possible. Also, what is kind of interesting to me is the level of detail that went into this story, because the whole Cupcake thing with Tate, Violet, and Constance, that was really well woven in. The irony of, I'm just going to say Hayden, eating that cupcake, someone's probably going to yell in the comment section, "No, it's not Hayden!" Sorry. But that girl who ate the cupcake, I love how these little pieces are falling into place. Not necessarily where anyone wanted them to go, but it's becoming this very intricate web where it's all connecting. But not exactly in a straight line. It's actually more staggered than that, but there's just so much that's winding in on itself. All these different interactions and things. It's nothing that's branching. It's going in and out and looping, twisting. It's very, very interesting and stimulating. I will give it that. There's just, it's like a soap opera, really, but one that you can actually follow. Because it's not like these people are being put in this situation where there's just really stupid things are happening. It's where it actually feels like there is cognitive thought going on, a conscious decision in how all this plays out. I like that. I don't hate Addie as much as I used to. I'm not as hostile towards Constance either. Tate, I am warming up a little bit to as well. I like that the characters that I hated the most are not as bad in the follow-up episode. Now, with that said, Ben and Vivian, geez, there's too many names to keep straight. Ben and Vivian are still the weakest characters, I would say, in this. Not because they aren't interesting, but because they are emotionally dead. At least when they're around each other, they are having a hell of a time just communicating. Ben is really pathetic and needs to man up in this situation. He should be communicating with his wife, not running off to Boston, handling an issue with the woman he had an affair with, and lying to Vivian. Vivian needs to start opening up to Ben more about these things that are going on with her. She is closing him off so badly. And I just want these two people to start communicating with one. I want Ben and Vivian to communicate. Vivian needs a spine and needs to put her foot down instead of just accepting things the way they are. And it feels like she's kind of going that way. Ben needs to man up, and I do not see him doing that anytime soon. He's getting pushed, but when he gets pushed, he either gets angry or runs away. And he has no balls. He sure has a dick, because we found that out too many times. He'll let that do all the work for him, but he won't do any kind of real thinking. How is this man a psychiatrist anyway? He's got more issues than his patients do. Violet right now is my favorite character. She is interesting. She has a personality. She is someone that I can at least root for, and that I am not repelled by. Yeah, she's bitchy, but then again, look at her parents. be honest, her relationship with Tate is really an interesting one. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how that turns out, because I feel like they are going to get closer after this. I hope she at least gives him a second chance. But one way or another, some answers are going to have to come out, and they're going to have to be given to the Harmon family. And I don't know what's going to happen in the follow-up episodes, because Vivian said she wanted the house sold. And Ben is still not doing anything that he should be. He is so damn pathetic. It's sad when I would turn to Constance because she actually has a spine. She actually does things. She takes charge of her life. But Ben just lets everything fall apart and does very little to fix it. He keeps talking about how this is a second chance, but he's not doing anything different. He feels like a completely lost man. He's one of the lost boys, really. He's... It is so bad. I'm still interested in the story. But damn, God! Ben and Vivian need to develop. They need to break out of this zombie shell that they've got, because it's not helping the story, it's not helping them. It feels like the only thing in that house that's actually secure is the space between their ears. Hell, they might as well take the doors off the hinges. It's not like they're doing anything. People can come in and out of that house without any kind of issue. But it's like their personalities are completely walled off. I will also say, with Constance, and yes, Constance this time, too many names to remember, the whole remark she made about one of her kids, because apparently she has multiple kids, I'm betting that Tate is one of them, that one of them was essentially the mark of physical perfection, almost, and that he should really be a model or something. And then you cut to her having a sensual moment with someone much younger than her, asking if he can be a model. It does not surprise me if she has undertaken an incestuous relationship with one of her kids. The story is still very good. There's a lot of answers that need to be given. And even when the answers were given, or at least in part, there's so much more that's come out of this. Like, who was Ben talking to when he was talking to supposedly Tate's parents? Is Constance actually Tate's mother? Who's his father? What the hell is Larry Harvey really up to? Because after the conversation he had with Ben, I am less convinced that he is being as honorable as he should be. There's a lot to figure out in this, and maybe by the end of this I'll have most of the answers and some of them still won't be answered. It could be that most of the answers will be purely speculation and not really something concrete. But I don't mind that. I do not mind that at all, so long as I can at least piece together an answer to some of this, because I don't like having things left off in this void, this Neverland sort of place where things just don't get developed and aren't seen through. It really does feel like a story is incomplete if it doesn't have a ending point. Now, granted, this is me talking way, way far into the series, at least for the first season. So we'll have to see what happens. Right now, I'm going to have to watch part 3, or episode 3, and see what comes from that, because it feels like this is going to get more and more interesting. I'm just hoping that Vivian and Ben become more interesting. See you in the next one.